I'm gonna go with welcome, big welcome, and hi to everyone. Shush. It has been a while, so back in the mix at the present moment, and I kind of feel a bit uncomfortable, and I really don't want to go down that path by telling everyone my personal problems. But yeah, what? This is Logistical Nightmare. For everyone on the stream, whether you are new, you've been involved, you haven't been involved, you know us, you don't know about us, give me a brief rundown of what and who we are. This is Logistical Nightmare Racing, short LNR. Again, a community that is focused on sim racing and love sim racing and enjoy doing what we do best, whether we are small to the world, new to everyone else, predominantly a South African community, working in conjunction with other communities in the local market of South Africa, but simultaneously out there to crunch the tracks and enjoy and have fun. So we're back in 2023. I haven't done streaming in a while. I haven't actually done live broadcasting of the sim racing that's taken place in quite a bit. So I'll be honest, I'm a bit rough on the edges. So it might just take a bit of work from my end. I think I've got everything set up to work the way it should. So I reckon I'm A for okay. It looks like my sound is working. I can see you guys can hear the sound. We are currently heading into what we would say is the qualifying session. So again, team versus team ACC PC Championship round 1 at Imola taking place. And let's just see quickly off the bat. Got a few individuals that has instantly hit the mark, so that's not Wilfred Robson, car number 505 in the McLaren with the navy blue orange Logistical Nightmare livery there. He's instantaneously off the bat. This man did not hesitate to wait to get out track. He's got clean air ahead of him, so he wants to put it on the mark. Now I haven't driven in Imola in quite some time, and I've heard the rumors that there's a lot of patches that's gone in, like adaptations, changes, aerodynamics on cars, and right. So I'm going to be heavily surprised on what's going to happen, but simultaneously learn from this. So if you boys on the stream have any inside info as to what is good, what is not good, what works, what does not work, then I'll probably appreciate that, because that will be nice for me to know. On the sideline, let's just see who I can give a heads up onto. So Project JR there, aka Jacques Vermillion, how's it, man? Paul Venter is on it, Ike is on, Jude Neville, big supporter of LT Racing, who's also sim racing today. Galen Mawa, who I believe is not on track, but he's got a team on representing Pace Motorsports. So yeah, there's a few of you, everyone on. I hope I haven't missed anything. Horsebox Streams, how's it to you? Matthew Campbell, saluting and cheering on for the ERA boys. And again, ERA is short for, I gotta get it right. ERA is short for the Evolution Racing Academy, boys. So I've got it wrong. Don't shoot me now. I am rusty. I have warned everyone. So let's go back on the track. This is the qualifying session. We got currently Wilfred on point. Let's see if we can find other cars to look at. Again, Gary van Haar in the Aston Martin, also spectating there with a Logistical Nightmare livery. Flip from Sale in LT Racing. Again, his boy on the one side screaming and shouting for him, which is Jude. Again, always such a beautiful livery. I'm hoping that's your livery, because I'm going to give a big shout out to the awesome sim racing application that allows us to upload all types of liveries onto a singular platform and use it for broadcasting purposes, which makes it so much simpler and easier. I mean, anyone that hasn't done that yet, yeah, get in touch, get involved. Lots of individuals from various communities of simracing.gp has got their eyes on it. Who do we have? H. Mayer from ISR, featuring a, that's like a bronze type color Honda there. Very shiny. To be fair, that looks quite gorgeous. Need a bit of bling on it. Well, I don't think you need any more bling than that. Just a couple of sponsored liveries, decals, and you'll be perfectly fine. So, on track, have we got any numbers? Has anyone set any times at this moment? I see a few numbers picking in. F1 Cell there, bouncing into P1 with a 43.4. Ooh, instantly smashed there by Mayer in the Honda. 42.5, 1 full second ahead of that. And I think I can make this work. Sorry boys, I need tricks of the trade. I think it's the insert link. There we go. Now everyone can see what I can see. A bit of delta there. So 42.5 there by Mayer. Slightly quicker than Stradom, who's also in the Honda, featuring another LNR livery, calling themselves the Expressly Slow. With that time that he slotted down there, it doesn't look like it's very expressively slow. But it's very tight between the individuals. So we look at R. Duplessis here in his BMW from MC Racing. His teamman, on the other hand, is Charles Schnur. So he's the guy second in command. And when we say second in command, again, this is team versus team, boys. We have 2 drivers per car in a team. The battle is the best team overall. And I think the last championship, Paul might correct me if I'm wrong, was done and won by the PWSR boys. Now if Paul's on the stream, he might shout at me and go like, no, that's so wrong, that's so wrong. But I reckon that was it. Who won the previous championship? I believe it is PWSR. But yes, as Paul alluded in the chat, that Jägermeister looks absolutely awesome. Alan won Season of Chaos. So Alan has been racing with us for quite some time, but he's also a broadcaster for other communities, and it's good to see the man in a championship, especially when it involves team driving championship, because I take my hat off for guys like Alan Patterson and the so-called Ike, the broadcasting individuals, the people with the voice. I don't have a good voice for broadcasting. It's just not my talent. I'm Dutch South Africa. Crunchy is all the way. But those that can and those that are talented to do so, aka the individuals I just highlighted, who are phenomenal, it's always fantastic to see those guys on a racing circuit driving. And I think the big request was to have some sort of driver swap series, which we've introduced. Logistical Nightmare was founded on the team versus team principle. 2 drivers, 1 team, 1 manufacturer, continuous championship. Originated in the Gran Turismo days on Sunday nights back in the days of 2017-18. So it's been a while. Let's go look at the other guys. I need to showcase all these beautiful people. This is a Lambo. Now, a car that I wouldn't necessarily drive, and I don't think I've ever driven it. I think it's just an absolute handful just to maintain that car on the track. But Arthur Wake is doing his best. Arthur Wake is teamed up with Javan Terrika, and they go Holson Racing Motorsports as their team name. I do wish them all the best during the championship. Delta wise, 15 minutes of qualifying, 16 minutes left. Let's see who we can pick up that's actually doing good times and good speeds. V now. He's in the seat at the moment. Up with his Delta. Currently is up by 3/10. He seems to be right on the marker there, and I reckon if he can keep it clean in this second sector, not lose too much time, which looks very smooth coming out of that corner, so no time lost there. The key winner here is by this chicane. It's how you enter and exit it. Based on his Delta confirmation at this moment, he hasn't lost time. So that is positive, and if he keeps it up, he is going to nudge ahead of Sean Stradom from a P1 perspective. Now, of course, we've got less than 6 minutes left, but it is looking good. Delta still looks beautiful. This is going to be very, very close. Can now pull it off. Took it by storm. Hey, 1:41.9 with a BMW on track at Imola. Smashing lap by him. His teammate will just be smiling point to point, taking Stradom off the initial pole. And that was a good lap. Pleasantly to watch that. Now we're looking at Fansel, who was up in Delta, lost a bit of time there, coming out of that hairpin. Going up into a Miller, which makes it into a tricky left-hander, and again it's a double left. You got to get your brake markers to the T, and this right-hander, which is kind of like a double apex effect. Entry and exit is of much importance. It looks like he has lost a bit of time, so Fansel needs to do a bit of work there. Herzeg. In a Honda, getting very ugly there. I'm going to call that commentator's curse. I am so sorry I did that to you. I would go back to the garage. Those tires are very hot and that fender looks very damaged. Sabata, Pace Motorsport, currently in P11, teamed up with Karel van der Berg, looking fancy in that livery. Heads up, who did this livery? I'm assuming it's Kaylan. Kaylan, did you design this or did you get someone to design that for you? That is the pure Pace Motorsports livery. Always been involved in any sim racing. Predominantly dominated in the GT, Gran Turismo Sport and Gran Turismo 7 League Championships. Don't be shy. Most of these individuals have got their Twitter URLs, Instagram URLs, Facebook pages, web pages, Discord channels. Yeah. Don't be shy to go and say hi to all of them. Upcoming budget cuts at the team. So, Robin van der Merwe. Ah, okay. Well, at least we know who did it. No worries. That's a stunning livery. Financial crisis is just one of those key things, but let's not damper everyone's spirit based on where we sit individually, financially on the global sector. Audi there in the mix, and I think this is the only Audi we have on the championship, and that's driven by Campbell for ARC LOL. Very fancy looking Audi there, currently an 8. Slightly ahead of R. Duplessis, and then of course Laredo in 7th, who's currently in the pit. Skitter in his Aston Martin. Very white livery there. I don't think that livery pulled into my applications. I think that's one of those not properly loaded one. Campbell's from ERA. Ah, okay. Thanks. ERA sent 2 teams. See, this is Paul keeping me on point. appreciate that, Mr. Fainter. I'm literally just reading team names from what is noted in here. So, up for challenge, straight on here, coming around the final corner. He is up by 2 cents. So if he maintains that, he is going to grab a pole position again. It seems like a big battle between the Honda and the BMW. Oh, that was close, that was close. So he lost a bit of time, 0.028 of a... That is phenomenally close. Going back out again, once again, up in Sector 1, that Honda just seems to be so smooth in those first couple of seconds, which is phenomenally amazing for such an old grass-cutting engine type machine. And for those that know me, I believe the Honda is a grass cutter. That's the best engine a Honda is for, to cut grass. Now, of course, a lot of individuals will disagree with me on that, which makes it fun. It's an open topic discussion. Some things we like, some things we don't. Back in the mix. Few seconds left. Stradom is still trying to get that pole position off Vinal. Based on the standings at the moment, he is potentially going to make it now. He's again up 2/10. Final corner. Bit of a slide there on the final. He's going to lose time. That is done and dusted. He's not going to make up the difference there. Vinal will take pole position. That is an unfortunate final corner there by Sean Stradom, but Mayer on the other hand might try and capitalize. No, he gets into third place. So very tight between 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5. That's a tight grid. Overall tight grid. Top 10 within a second of each other. That's gonna be phenomenally great. This is where we are from a qualifying perspective. And I have to admit, that looks phenomenally close between all the individuals. Sector by sector, point by point, we have the BMW that's going to lead the charge, followed by 2 hungry Hondas. Let me see if I can get this right. Also, I haven't done this in ages. Counting down the grid. Okay, leading off by storm is the BMW driven by V now, followed by Paul Fainter, it seems to be for driver 1. Then we have H. Mayer, car 99, and his Honda. BMW Alan Patterson made it into 4th place. He's being chased down by Jacques Vermeulen in a Porsche. Van Sale in another BMW in car number 5 on the left hand point. Then we've of course got Sean Skitter in car number 33 in the Aston Martin. Gamble in 222 in his Audi, the only Audi on the track. Another BMW there by Laredo in 9th. Duplessis in 10th with car number 17. BMW on track again with Sabata from Pace Motorsports. Then we have Nel Bullion and his McLaren in car 129. Suited by Gary van der Haar in car 122 with the Aston Martin. Another LNR McLaren with Robson in car 505. And of course the Lamborghini in car 210 with R van Beek. And then Herzog in his Honda in car 198. Pleasantly, that is the grid. Top to bottom, point to point, helicam view. 1 second to go. These boys are going to kick it off with a warm-up lap. So what we have is Hondas chasing down a BMW. Two Chinese manufacturing cars hunting down the German-made BMW M4. Driver V-Null with team name Chasing Beaver. Someone's got to tell me what that is all about. What is that Chasing Beaver all about? Japanese. Okay, Japanese. Chinese, Japanese. My apologies. I'm a poet and I don't even know it. Oh, Ike on the banter here, Chasing Beaver, because that's what the M4 looks like. I have no comment. Absolutely no comment. There's a quite a versatile commentating team over here on the YouTube channel, giving me the information that the BMW is not the favorite one. Someone disconnected. Yes, someone did DC. We had 16 individuals on track. Based on what I can see, Gary van der Haar's there, Sabata's there, Duplessis there, Laredo. Someone has certainly been disconnected. I am unable to determine who that was based on my quick observation. Option van Wyk. Ooh, I somehow suspect it was the Honda. The Honda that was in P3 disconnected. Yes, P3 the Honda, Meyer's car. That changes the dilemma quite a bit, because now we have BMW, Honda, BM. One Honda driven by Sean Strainer, sandwiched in between a bunch of BMWs. This is going to be a tough battle. Now, to be fair, I cannot recall that Nal ever drove before. He might have. I don't think I've commentated on him. So he looks like an individual with quite a bit of pace on him in that BMW. We know Patterson is of high quality standards when it comes to racing. I mean, he puts it on the mark every single time. Clean, effective, gets the job done, does it well. So I expect to see quite a few good things from him. Van Zyl is also in the mix. Vermeulen in the Porsche is a bit unusual for me. So that is going to be an interesting matter. Everyone on chat having massive discussions. No pressure. We are waiting for the green. Green flag is on the go. Boys down the grid, heading it off into corner one, which is the most technical section of the grid. People are generally very, very hard on this. Do we have a clean opening? A bit of tap there between Patterson and Straydom. Not of a big concern, but there has been collision between Van Zyl and it looks like Gary van der Haar in the Aston Martin. That's going to set them back quite a bit. Van Zyl is now dropped all the way backwards. I'd love to actually go and have a look and see what happened there. Give it a few minutes for people to settle in. To see where we can get that. Van Zyl is a bit off the mark. See if I can get a bit of a replay there from Van Zyl. He goes onto the inside. Gary van der Haar just sneaks it in, tags him on the rear. Oh, and then he gets double tapped again. So an Aston Martin made contact with Van Zyl on his left rear, which then put him and unsettled his car. That is just absolutely unfortunate. I do hope that the stewarding team who we have will have a deep look into that. A couple of cars with a spin. So that was a 505 with car 122. 122. Gary. But it doesn't look like Gary did the initial contact. Let's see if I can get my facts straight. So, few incidents as we start, rough on the edges. Back into the mix. Let's go to the leaders. This is where the action is at the moment. Now got away quite swiftly. Now, of course, Stratum had a slight contact with Patterson, and I think it was just a bit of a bender between those two, so nothing to be overly concerned about. No positions lost. That Honda looks quite aggressive from the word go. They are very close. Now Patterson, on the other hand, is looking quite delicious there. Comfortable in his way. Let these boys fight. As Stratum takes the inside line, he will have an advantage coming out of that corner, but both cars will be unsettled from a speed perspective. With getting two cars wide, they will slow them down drastically. Now on the other hand, lets the Honda go, and this is all about strategic planning, team versus team racing. These boys have to do a mandatory pit stop, do a driver swap, and get their teammate to follow. If and when they do it, that's up to them. Ooh, Patterson making a big oopsie there, loses complete momentum, which puts Skitter on the mix, takes the position to third place. Now Skitter is ahead of a pack, and if I look on the car, I think that is Skitter that potentially made contact with Van Zyl at the beginning of the race. So expect the stewarding team to have a deep look into what has occurred, who is at fault, and who will get awarded a penalty, if there is any, being awarded across to the guys. But only a few minor changes has happened in the opening laps. We have 1 hour and 20 minutes of action-packed excitement. 15 cars on the grid. It was originally 16. We've lost the individual who was placed in third place. That gambled everything up as we are. Loredo is there. He is sandwiched. Well, he's trying to make his move on Duplessis. Herzeg is off track. Something went horribly wrong there. And then we have the boys here at the back of the pack. So the bunch of the boys are still tightly within a few, I would say, milliseconds of each other. Patterson, on the other hand, trying to make a comeback on the position he has lost, not losing too much time. Was a bit unsettled in the beginning, but I guess that's all got to do with about tire heating system and so forth. It does take a while for it to warm up, so you don't want to go too hard with your tires, but you also don't want to place yourself in a bad position for your opponent to take advantage of it, which did occur. Anyone else new on the stream? Brooker, welcome back. Fleming Bauer, these things happen. We'll be coming back next week for you guys. Is it Fleming? Unfortunately, man, that is terrible that you have been disconnected. Oh, unfortunately there, Mr. Bauer. Good to see that you will be coming back next week with big emphasis and hype as we go forth. Front of the back, still there. Sean Stratum made a big mistake. He's dropped down 3 positions. Now that is something very unusual for this man to actually do on a racetrack given the day. I reckon he outbraked himself or lost control of the car, whereby the rear end just let him go. So positions changed again. V now in the center of taking the win so far. He is being hunted down by Skitter and Patterson. Now Patterson's going to make that BMW rear end very, very wide. Stratum is going to struggle to do anything of that nature. Passing at Imola is a trick. You need to set it up for the straights as best you can, because the corners are tight, extremely tight. So back at the leader. This is now staying out of trouble there. Duplessis here. He still has Laredo and Bullion on his rear end. Brooker going. Let's see what's happened, Brooker. Oh, so just grabbing my eyes on the communication on the stream. So, Brooker, wish you all the best. Hope you recover soon. And again, get your speed and speed juice back into the mix when you can. Oh, it did look like there was a maneuver there somehow. Now Bullion dropping in positions. Skitter taking a spot. So there's plenty of things happening. I cannot keep track. This is happening way too fast, too quickly. 5-second penalty there for Skitter. That is probably due to the incident he caused at the beginning of the race, whereby he did make contact with Van Zyl that put Van Zyl into a spin. It hasn't offsetted Van Zyl that much, but it depends of how much damage Van Zyl is carrying, is I cannot see him gone into the pits to get anything fixed. But as for the top 4 boys, they are certainly bringing it up and entertaining us this evening. Skitter, Nel, Patterson, Straydom, within 2-3 seconds of each other. Small mistakes is what's going to cost you positions, and it just doesn't look like Nel feels very comfortable in that BMW. Something is not right. Now that could be a number of things. That could be over-fueled, so he's potentially carrying more fuel in his car, which could make him a bit slower, or there's a bit of too much oversteer, understeer versus the heavy weight of the fuel. It could also be the fact that his tire temperature has just not gotten up to speed yet, which will slow you down. So these major factors in the sim racing needs to get it right all the time. But then he has a lap like this where he catches up Skitter within 0.4 of a second. So I reckon it's a strategy. Looks like a strategy. Like, let them race, let me chase, and I'll wait until you make a mistake and I'll take it from you. Put pressure on the guy ahead of you and then take it from there. And there we have it. Gone a bit too slow. Patterson all over the rear end of that BMW. Are we going to see a dive there by Patterson? Patterson goes on the inside, takes the move, opens it up, slows it down. Ooh, slows both cars down. And that would have given Straydom quite a big fright. Quite a big fright, because I don't think he would have expected that. A bit of an unsettling scene there, where it just seems like Patterson went perhaps a bit too deep, tried to overcompensate that by slowing his car down, which then slowed the car down of Nel, and then that repercussion back onto Straydom that just didn't expect it. So didn't look like any contact was made between those guys. But now Straydom is being the aggressor and Nel is being the defender, and Straydom going on the outside, forcing Nel to stick it on the inside. Is he going to cover the corner on the exit, or is Straydom going to do the same move he did in the second lap? This looks identical, like deja vu. Replica of where Straydom takes the inside line, going to slow them both down. No, Nel cuts his nose off, refuses entry for Straydom. And as these battles commence, Jacques Vermeulen there in 5th place, slowly catching up with him. don't want to move from that. Van Wyk, big mistake by him, but I was going to go back because the battle between Sabata and Robson has been close. So what has happened? Sabata has gained position. Gary van der Haar is there. Robson has taken 12th place at this moment. So it looks like the Pace Motorsport boys have gained a few positions. He is now chasing down Nel Bullion, or the Lambo. Yes, he is chasing down the Lambo, who did make a mistake. Bullion opened it up. He is now running ahead so that he can catch up a few guys. Herzog not having a great race. Stratum and Nel side by side. Ooh, big mistake there by Nel. Too much curb. That will definitely damper him, but now he's going to be under pressure with the Porsche. Jacques taking the inside line. That is a given position. If he can get his brake marker point on. Yes, 2 positions lost to now, purely because of taking too much curb coming out of corner 2. Absolutely unfortunate. I wonder if this is all to do with pressure. Is it too much? Is it too daunting? Let's straight on just put a bit of a nudge in there, forcing the man to make a mistake. And that brings back Laredo and Duplessis, who is closing the gap down now, inch by inch. So this race is not over. It has shifted slightly from the top 3 all the way to about 5, 6 and 7. And now is the man that is creating all the excitement this evening. I reckon I'm just going to stay on this one the whole night long. Boys at PWSR shouting out for the PSWSR boys to send it. Ooh, lost another individual. One more connection lost. Down to 14 cars. That's going to make it a very lonely track race. Where is it? I mean, shouldn't be that damned and stressed out. This is late at night. We shouldn't have that many load issues or internet issues. But then again, anything can happen. No. No. That's what happened. Boys on the stream picked it up. Skitter, gone. He was the leader. He disconnected. That puts PWSR in the lead. Anthony goes, we're coming back from the lead. So, to my surprise, we have had we probably had like 3-4 different types of leaders since the start of the race. Not even 20 minutes into the race and we've had that already. Alan Patterson, new race leader with the BMW Jägermeister car, which in all fairness, an absolutely beautiful shot of a drink, far better than the tequila. Not only does the man have great car taste, he knows what a good drink is all about. And again, I'm probably gonna have a lot of stick about that, so calm down, boys, calm down. Tequila isn't life, nor is a grass cutter. Just saying. Yeah, Jacques Vermeulen in the Porsche, the only Porsche on track. He's being chased down by Vinal in a LNR livery. Team name, LNR Pop and Goers. That sounded good when I said that. Okay, now Skitter is back, but he is in the pit. Now he's going to be a few laps down based on that disconnection. So, it's going to be hard for them to come back from where they were. Vinal, on the other hand, is trying to make up time to Vermeulen in the Porsche. Now, I won't say that the Porsche is a very slow car on this track. I do say it's quite a tricky car to manage on this track. There's a couple of corners where one has to be very cautious, because that rear end on the Porsche is forever wanting to step out and go in the opposite direction. So I would suspect that we would have a very mechanical, centered, stiff setup here in order to balance that rear wing, which could be a downfall, because top speed and the straight is what is key here, and whether Null has observed that is to be determined. So let's just look at the rear wing. That BMW is very close. Loving the Logistical Nightmare badge there. Does that BMW have the legs to catch up? Not enough, but it is there. So needs to be a bit more closer in order to execute that coming around the second time. So Null has got a bit of work for him. He knows where his advantage point is. The question is whether he can capitalize on that. Boys back, Skid and them are back in the mix, but they are 2 laps down, as the Delta has confirmed that. So that is going to be a very painful and long race for them. That was a potential podium victory for car number 333 in the Aston Martin, which might just not make it. Gary van Haar and Campbell. So Aston Martin, the LNR chatbots versus the ERA boys in the Audi, battling it out there for 10th position. To my recollection, I've always believed that the Aston would be the better car at Imola. Some say that it is the OP car for 2023 as we kick off the new year. Max Verstappen. I feel like we're calling names here that I have no idea, so you guys have to enlighten me who that is. I've picked up on that. Okay, so chat is going wild at the moment. Loving the enthusiasm that you boys all bring to the chat. It's always fantastic to read it. And it's nice to see that you guys are staying on par with the LNR way. So, long race to go. 60 minutes left. From where we are and where we stand at, the configuration requirements is that we will have to have a pit stop count again, where, in all fairness, no mandatory driver swap is needed. A pit stop count has to be executed though, okay? And a bit of fueling is needed, so fueling and tires. No, let me reread that again. Boys, as we talked about the Porsche and that rear end tail kicking it out, that is going to open up the door for now for Vermeulen going very defensive, which is going to shorten that fight to 3 individuals now. It's gone from a 2-standing battle to a 3-way tie for the final podium position at the race. Now, of course, we have 60 minutes left of what is left, and this is not yet finished. Duplessis there in the background. Nel Bullion, a bit of the mark this evening with the McLaren. I don't think the McLaren's the right car for this track. Now, for that, I can ask everyone to give me their opinion, their express. How well is the McLaren on Imola? I thought that it's actually quite good. I mean, it can handle the bumps and curves of most tracks, or am I completely mistaken? multitasking. Ike's multitasking, I'm multitasking. I have a beverage in my hand. Looking at the best places to race as I've potentially just missed a pass there by Stratum. He was gaining on Patterson and has subsequently managed to make a move and regained the lead of the race. So I'm gonna have to go back and see how was that executed and done. Side by side as they went into that corner. Of course, as we said, that would slow down both cars. Cuts it in and then takes the racing line, which forces Patterson to yield for the corner. Now, having said that, great move by Stratum, forcing the secondary driver to yield down. Smart decision made there by Patterson to yield instead of battle. 2 wides into that corner would have been catastrophic if they weren't smart enough. So that is what I say, top class driving. Fight when you need to fight, take advantage when need to do so, and then subsequently to that, battle when you can. Jacques Vermeulen went off track as well, so Jacques Vermeulen is out of the mix there. That did push Loureiro up in the mix. Duplessis is up there, and now, oh, plenty of action all across. I'm gonna go and just have a quick scan as what has happened to Vermeulen. So as they came down 3 wide through the straight line, this is big action, touched by the 2 cars. Loureiro takes advantage, he gets contacted with now, pushes off the man. Ooh, unfortunate incident there. Big action though. That was daring. 3 cars. Loureiro coming all the way from the back with his BMW. Big pace there by this Beamer. It is quick. Who would have thought that that is even possible? Because to my knowledge, Loureiro in LT Sim Racing was 2 positions behind Vermeulen, came down the straight line, side by side, 3-car action into turn 1, gained the advantage, took the opportunity. The unfortunate of Vermeulen and now making contact with each other coming out of the corner. That to be investigated. Vermeulen pulling the trigger, he is in the pits. I would assume that is for a bit of damage. A Porsche with any aerodynamic damage is going to be havoc to drive. Now looks like he's sliding quite a bit though as well, so question is did he pick up a bit of damage? Now we have 3 BMWs in the mix, 4 of them in the top 5, outclasses most of the other cars. The only unknown is Stratum with the Honda. Seems to me that this man's going to have a significant battle on his hands to keep ahead of the... I'm gonna go with dominant BMWs at this stage. Like, I know there's individuals that do not like this car, and it's a debatable discussion as to why and so forth and all those lovely things, but they have seemingly ventured their way forward, and 4 of them are in the top 5. So it does look like it's still a very, very dominating quick car, if managed and maintained and controlled properly. Loureiro trying to stay away from Duplessis, who is driving for MC Racing. Again, based on colored cars, I would assume that that is the second ERA team. Nope. Maybe. I need Paul to help me here. People on the stream already talking about shots and deaths and so forth. Liam, that is just awful. How could you? Too soon. Just too soon. Okay, so it's okay. Vermeulen has gone into the pit. He has done his mandatory stop. Now it's Ryan Barrington-Smith in the mix with the Porsche. Now, this looks like a match made in heaven. I've always known that Barrington-Smith will have a Porsche in his hand, and he looks aggressive. So that looks excitingly aggressive, and it's because he's just ahead of the leader there. So I would guess his objective is to try and maintain that level of speed and agility, stay ahead of the leaders, lose less time, and then gain perspective. He now got a 5-second penalty. I would assume that is for the contact that was made between himself and Jacques Vermeulen. Now, to me, that's a 50-50 cut. I didn't analyze the whole thing, but it did look like it was close in contention, potential racing incident, but again, of course, very debatable. I am not the decision maker in these kinds of things. Let's go look at the back. Fun Sail is still heading it off, doing a phenomenal job, trying to catch up to the guys ahead of him. Now, of course, he was involved in the first corner incident, which caused him to spin around. He is trying to catch up to this slight battle at the moment between Gary van der Haar, and then of course we have Robson in the mix there with his LNR. So two LNR boys battling it out for that 10th position. At the back, who you saw moving out of the way was Herzeg, who doesn't seem like he's had a wonderful race thus far. Still persevering and wanting to finish it, so big ups to you. Loving it. Fantastic. I agree that's probably a smart move. I reckon it is. If Perez and the Porsche can keep it up and maintain the same amount of pace as what the guys behind them are doing, it's probable, but it seems like it's going to be a lot of work. But this is not a Porsche track. Let's be realistic. It just not is. There is not enough straight line speed on that Porsche to potentially do it. The amount of times that this car has to shift from corner to corner, left to right, makes it very, very hard to maintain it. From a setup point of view, that mechanical grip has to be quite stiff. So he's going to lose time and speed. So I know Perez is quite quick. Like, quite is probably an understatement from my observation. He has the pace, he has the legs, he has the ability to put it down, even lap by lap. So consistency is of the high importance of it. But based on the time frame of what Stratum is doing, Patterson and those boys, he seems to be about half a second slower from a lap standpoint. Whether that be a tire thing or not, but it's quite a marginal difference. As you can see, Stratum's already on the rear end of Perez. And that is the leader of the race, who was probably about 2 seconds behind him when Perez exited from the pits. So it's going to be tough. Panda there, coming onto the stream saying hi, going poker is live. Probably. It is one of the well-known GT3 racing cars, or racing car in general, in all types of motorsport. I could be wrong, but I also do believe that the Porsche people are going to join into Formula 1. I haven't really read up on all that. I'm way behind the discussions about that, but I do believe the rumors were an Audi car and a Porsche car or something else. Again, you guys on the stream, help me where I am wrong. It's honestly been a while since I've read up on what is happening or what is planned to happen with F1 on a manufacturer entry list for the next couple of years. No Porsche, says Ashley. Currently only Audi in F1. Okay, so I haven't read it, but thanks for the info, Ash. For those that didn't know, aka me, I didn't know that. Panda indicating new poker coming up soon. You mind elaborating on that? Are you saying we're getting a new Porsche for a series, ACC, or something like that? So loving the info, guys. You guys definitely seem to have quite a bit of knowledge there on what's happening. 992 GT3 car coming. Oh, that would be nice. More battles in the mix. Nel Bullion has creeped up his way all the way to 4th at the moment. So, and again, that, ooh, Laredo in and out with a drive-through. That is going to set him back. He has worked that hard to capture a podium. How he's managed to get a drive-through, I would say slight speed overlap in pit entry or exit. That's going to set them back. That's for sure. An absolute unfortunate there. Again, big win to those that have pitted. So you can see Beddington has capitalized on the pit exit. So he is ahead of Schnur, Van Zyl and Mouton. Bosch in the mix again. Everyone seems to be heading into the pits. Which is about the halfway mark of the 1 hour 20 minutes time frame. So expect to see quite a few guys, if they're going to go 50-50, this is the time frame to do so. Perez, on the other hand, was the only individual with his teammate that has jumped the gun initially and got ahead of the pack. Assetto also in, he's got 3 laps down, so he's got a lot of work to do for him. Beddington Smith, so far the leading race car from those who have put chasing down the leader of the race. But on the other end of it, Zapata and Gamble still battling it out. So Base Motorsport still in the mix. Zapata under severe pressure, making his BMW as wide as he can for that Audi. And it does look like Gamble is quite close. So if he sets this up nicely, slows it down, brings it in nicely for the second corner on that exit, it's all about your exit speed. If you can sit on that rear end of that BMW, you might just be in a position to capitalize on it. Does he have enough pace though? That's the ultimate question. Can he outrun that BMW in a straight? Looks on the inside, opens it up, decides to yield. So close, but not too close from his point. Zapata didn't really go defensive there. So is that a sheer thought of confidence in knowing that he has the legs on the straight and can stretch it out, or is this doesn't ideally want to defend? Because I cannot see defensive driving there by Zapata. He's more of a relaxed stance in it, not really looking at what the guy is doing behind him, potentially focusing on his race, his front end, not what is behind him. And if a move is going to be made, it will be done based on skill. So really no need for defensive driving. Still interesting, they are close within proximity to one another. Other than that, we have Gary van der Haar here, who is slowly being chased down by Robson. Still an ongoing battle since we last focused on him. Now that to me looks to me like Fansao or Dylan Hall is now in the car. Oh, D Hall, sorry, D Hall. Why did I say Dylan? It is Dylan. It is. Oh, I'm correct. Phew. Got a bit worried. Made an assumption that it is Dylan, and thankfully I'm on point. Tabata has yielded the position. Campbell has taken it though. Now I did see some flashing lights there coming out of Sabata's car. Oh, Sabata making contact with the Audi. That didn't look quite adventurous, so let's just see where this occurred. Audi did find its way behind the BMW, took the inside line this time, made the move stick, forced the BMW to slow down, opened it up, and then capitalized on that position. So again, fantastic move there. It does look like it slowed down the BMW a bit, so a bit of frustration there shown by Sabata, going, I have the speed, I have the pace, why don't you have it? I go by that. That's exit and entry speed. So Audi certainly got the position. Of course, the slight contact between these two individuals at the hairpin could have just been a basic misjudgment by the two drivers on their braking markers. Once you are the leader and you become the follower, it's all about having that ability to adjust your lines and where you brake for the opposing member you are battling with. Ike going, can I join you on Discord? Yeah, sure. Let's just see if I can get there. There we go. Hello. Finding you. It's been eventful. It's been a learning curve for me again. So I haven't been on the streaming session for quite a while. So it feels like I have to relearn all these things and then get back into the mix and just make sure I've got everything right and what's wrong and so forth. But it started well. We've had various leaders since the start of the race. A couple of boys that are disconnected, which lost the lead, and they're back in the race racing again, which is unfortunate. And then we have a driver that just couldn't get back. So eventful, for sure. Yes. Yes.
Like, he is at full speed and he is at his race pace. Now, that will come back to bite him later on in the stint, potentially, but these tyres will do an hour and a half if you really want to stretch them. So it's well within their operating window to do 40 minutes. Berries is looking quite strong, in my opinion. We'll see how far he gets up. He's going to be up. I think he's going to be the leader of those who have pitted up until quite late in the stint. And the other thing as well is we need to keep an eye on those leading drivers. The 777 of Stridham in the pits now for their first, for their one and only pit stop. Venter will be jumping in there, and that's going to be a red hot banana for the remainder of the race, I think.
Well, it's quite low. So if we look at where we are, so Barrington is now in quite deep into the second sector. Whereas De Santos, who's the secondary driver of the PWSR, is coming through the final corner. It's going to be quite tight because I see Paul Venter is out. So, yes.
Remember, PWSR was leading the race at one point in the race.
It was. And it looks like they've lost quite a bit to...
Yep. So it's not over yet, not by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not.
Brooker believes in Ryan as well. Also, the 5-second penalty, I can probably give some speculation on that, as I always do, and I'm normally wrong. Is that it's come from the BMW turning down on the Porsche when the Porsche was alongside.
That could have been that, which is
one of those things where space needs to be given, and it clearly wasn't on that occasion on the apex of the corner, is what I would speculate. Obviously, I've just been watching the same as you, so I could very well be wrong.
It's hard because again, when you go into corner one, your immediate reaction is to bring your nose quite in, because the last thing you want to do is run over that secondary apex corner and take too much curb, because it's gonna unsettle your car. So it's that instantaneous reaction, and if you've got the speed and the pace, and you haven't slowed your car down enough to allow two cars to go through those apexes, then yes, it's going to happen.
I'm now going to get on my high horse as a driver, and say, if this were any other sim, if this was R Factor 2, if this was iRacing, if this was Project Cars, any other sim, I would wholeheartedly agree with your assessment. I would completely agree with you. Beautiful looking McLaren there, by the way.
It does.
Definitely one of the best looking cars on the grid. No bias at all. But in ACC, you have zero excuse for not having awareness of cars around you. And I think that might be a contributing factor to why the penalty's been given as well. There's zero. You have a radar. It is called Corsa, for goodness sake. That, like, they made it what it is today.
Yes.
And if you're driving without that radar on, or you're not using the radar, then you deserve every penalty that you're going to get, because that radar tells you exactly where the cars are, how fast they're going. It gives you, in real time, the peripheral vision that you lack, because the majority of us are gaming on monitors, basically.
I agree to you with it, and you know what? It's always one of those things to have a discussion with, because to me, I love the fact that the radar is there, but coming from where I stand, I mean, I probably have quite a wide-ish screen that I use for my sim racing and so forth. Yep. I don't look at that when it goes on and when it flickers on and when it does what, because to me it's just above where my eye level sits to focus on where my brake points are, my apexes are, entries and exits. So I just do not lift my eyes. It's like your visual preference within ACC. I know certain individuals will have on the top left-hand side their deltas, and you have the ability to remove it. I had to forcefully teach myself to remove it and not look at it, because it became a distraction.
Yeah.
And I think if they reposition that at a different location, that doesn't cause distraction, but also doesn't allow your eyes to lift up, I think we might have better driving methodologies. Ooh, as the
Hi, Lambo.
Lambo.
It sounds good. Apparently, it's not quite handling, which is really strange. The Lamborghini, every time I've jumped behind the wheel of the Lamborghini, it's the one car that I can arrive and drive. Obviously, I'm not quick in it, but I've never found the Lamborghini bites you or complains overly. So I'm a little bit interested in what they've done in that Wholesome Motorsports car to make it so pointy. Niall saying that he has. Niall saying that he was learning to drive the McLaren while racing, and it was quite interesting. He did a pretty decent job, Niall, I've got to say.
He did, because I think from a normal perspective, I would have expected Nell to be within the top 5 of a qualifying point. And when I did the grid walk down, I went like, why is he there? So that makes sense. That completely makes sense.
Well, so Niall normally drives the BMW, which is an entirely different driving experience. You're going from front mid-engine to rear mid-engine. The diff settings are entirely different. The aerodynamic balance is entirely different. The braking performance is night and day from the BMW to the McLaren.
Yes.
They are entirely different cars. And again, this is in a balanced performance class as the PWSR car goes up the inside. That was a car up the inside. That was a very, very dodgy move from the sister BMW there.
That looked to me like again, I blue flag car being passed. Very, very late decision to allow the individual to go through that, because you already committed to unless he indicated, which I didn't see. I mean,
see either,
so indicating to the individual, I'm going to stay on the right and therefore go for the left hand when you. Oh, it's tough. That was close.
Well, these are the kinds of split-second decisions that you make when you're on the racetrack that you either live to regret or sometimes can be the inspirational choice that you've made. Evening to all of the first drivers that are joining the stream, by the way. Please give us a run by run of how the first stints were for you all.
Yeah, like everyone that had their first stint is back on the chat. So Sean Laredo sticking it out there. LTR by Chic SA. They're a great LT team sponsored by Chic South Africa, which is phenomenal. I think they're one of the top end class teams that are sponsored by individuals or other entities, which is good and phenomenal. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, seeing sim racing being recognized by exterior companies and organizations outside of the direct space, my goodness, it makes you think of the explosion of esports just over a decade ago now with League of Legends and the like. Could we see that kind of revelation to sim racing?
Yes, and the continuous involvement of it. I was just venturing over to the LT boys and then saw they made a slight error going into turn 1. So sorry, is what I'm gonna go with.
And so that three wide that ended up in the 5-second penalty for the 8 car, the BMW.
That was a move.
That was an absolute move, and through that section of track, I think that was being lapping as well.
But that was brilliant, because that LT, I think from a racing perspective, that was the passing maneuver of the evening. 3 wide, that LT boys were right with 2 positions down. Made those 2 positions up in the long straight, therefore they had the better exit in the final corner and capitalized it. That was phenomenal.
Ashley's just seen what I've seen as well. Look at 3rd position.
Wellington Smith, the man that we've talked about. So yes, this is where you've just mentioned pit stop strategies doesn't necessarily have to boil down to I drive, you drive 50-50. It's all about reading the race conditions.
And one of the things that is most important, and one of the things that both that both drivers in that Porsche got right was spotting where the gap was going to be on the track for them to run in clear air. By far and away, some of the most important things that you can do is give yourself some clean air, because it doesn't matter whether you're chasing or being chased, you're putting unnecessary pressure on yourself. If you can find yourself a gap to just execute at your best, you will make time.
Yeah, because your focus then becomes everything ahead of you, except from everything around you, behind you, and just pushing for that lap time. Because we all get distracted from a sim racing point of view. We look at the deltas that we shouldn't look at on our screens, and we go like, I can do that, I cannot do that, why can't I do that? And then it becomes a mental game as opposed to just race what you can do. Don't battle the numbers, don't battle lap times. You're not fighting for that.
Well, you said about taking the delta off of ACC. I am not very good when it comes to. I get distracted very easily, and so when you're running on a consistent time, when you're good at racing, you do a lot. I found that the red, grey, green, that the delta oscillates around was distracting me and causing me to lose time. So what I actually did is I used SimHub for my sim racing, and I just put a split timer on my SimHub dash, which now slowly fades. It's only over 1/10 of a second, but it fades from green to red, and that 1/10 of a second, all that is, it just means it stays yellow when it's when you're on the money, basically.
Yes.
And just that simple change, it completely changed my how consistent I was being, because I wasn't being distracted.
You gotta check. Ooh, as the Audi makes a big mistake. Now these two boys battle it out just before the pit stops. Now that they're still gonna do it.
I was going to say, the cars obviously have a magnetism for each other. I'm interested to see what that Audi can do now as the chasing car. Recently, the BMW's got a big balance of performance, which reduced the amount of braking they were able to do and nerfed their top speed, which means that now they handle closer to the Porsche than the Audi or the NSX or the 720S, which has the higher top speeds. Is that Young actually making that position, or is that, I think that's just unlapping himself?
That's just unlapping himself.
Yes, yeah.
Which is
so
interesting.
1, 2, 2. Yeah, with having a bit of a nightmare of a race
for themselves. And Dave Young started off with Gary van der Haas. So Gary and them were not that bad prior to pit stop. So curious to know what has happened afterwards.
So, I dare to say, obviously having no knowledge of what's been going on, Dave getting it wrong. Oh, after all that hard work to get back past the Audi, he's going to have to do it all again. So Dave, we've just obviously started the ERA season, and Dave was very much forgetting about the mandatory pit stop in that race. I have a feeling that there may have been a strategy faux pas in the pit stops. You can lose so much time, and it is outright time in the pit stops, by getting it wrong, not having your startup procedure agreed upon, not having the car in the right gear, or having the car in a gear. All of those things make a difference.
You're right, and I actually went to just delve down and see what the total pit time was for each individual car to see if that was a leading cause. Now, they did have a longer pit stop, and if I say the time that they've stopped was about 7 seconds longer than your average, what everyone else has done, but it's not as substantial as what these guys in car number 8 did. Their pit stop overall was about the longest out of everyone. They had an additional 14 seconds extra to your number time that you would have stopped, which is quite unusual.
Yeah, yeah. So there will be a couple of contributing factors to that. One will be damage. Two will be that startup procedure. Because for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure the majority of people who are in the stream at the moment do, to get the car serviced, you need to turn the engine off. And there's two ways to do that. You can either there's two ways to do that. You can either stall the car in the pit stall, which is not the recommended way to do it, or you can turn the ignition off. And then if you turn the ignition off, you have to turn the ignition back on, or if you have the ignition or you can turn the ignition back on again, and then the second driver just has to press the starter button. But that kind of miscommunication can add seconds onto your pit stop, and that is seconds that you're losing on track.
Yeah, it is so true. But I mean, to go back on the discussion we had about pit stops, team pit stopping, time you pit stop, and all those things, these boys in the Porsche again came out, moved their way forward during the first stint, did have the BMW collision. I mean, they did send a bit of Jacques off the track, recovered quite quickly, and then instantaneously made a decision, you know what, let's do the pits, let's get it out there, get clean track, get Perez on track, who we know is a phenomenal constant driver. This is his car, and they're in the podium position. Now, no one really battling it out. They've got a clear gap between themselves and the guys in second, which is about 19 seconds in delta difference at the present moment. So for them to chase and get that is probably going to be a bit hard. But the guys in fourth are like another 12 seconds behind them. And that's just pit stop advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is as well is that the McLaren, this is a difficult track for the McLaren. It has got the straight line speed, obviously down this start finish straight, but that's just about all it's got going for itself. It doesn't really have the braking, it doesn't really have the downforce and the handling to be able to properly push the car on a regular basis. With the way that the McLaren handles, if you push yourself too hard, you're going to cook the rear tyres, and they're going to fade quicker than is necessary. By the way, I've also seen the comment that Garrett has put in chat. Flat free will get you everywhere. The reason why I'm not commentating on a regular basis is because I'm busy during the opening stanzas. I'm jumping in to help get the boss man warmed back up to commentating.
I'm terrible at this, man.
You're fine.
I haven't done it like you. I haven't done the commentating thing for a while, so I need to get back into the rhythm, get my mindset into it. I know all the good things and I know what's good and what's not, but my sim racing's gone backwards at the same time too. So I have forgotten what cars are good, what are not. The updates over the recent time on the ACC platform has elevated and changed quite a lot of things. So I need to get back up to speed there, but it's nice. I'm set to commentate for this season, and I'm going to continue to do so. I nearly missed the mark today just because of work, but that's life for you. It's life.
It's awful, isn't it? It's awful. It makes you wish you could do this thing full time.
Yeah, it's so much. Commentating is hard work because you got to go find the story and then you got to build on that and take it from there. That's why I go like there are certain individuals out there with, I would say, the talent to do so. The guy of mine is the first driver of PWSR. I mean, aka Alan Patterson. I might sound like I bloat a lot about the PWSR boys and Alan Patterson, but there's a lot of talent in this team. It's a small unified team. They're always in the top end margin. Everyone knows of them. Patterson is involved in most of the streaming throughout the South African industry. You yourself have been involved in quite a lot across various other communities and platforms. So for me, I do this because I love the sim racing. I don't have the time to race on Tuesdays, and it's the passion of the community itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, Paul is absolutely on fire at the moment. He still hasn't deposed the Aston Martin's fastest lap from the start of the race, but my goodness, he's on fire.
He is, and he's putting it down lap by lap. I mean, his lap times compared to De Santos at this moment, and I'm not going to take away from Chris De Santos. I mean, from recollection and the time I've started sim racing, there was a point where Chris was new to sim racing, and based on speed and abilities, he was slower than myself.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite.
65, by the way.
Yes, De Santos is one of the quick top 10 boys, top 20, 30 boys in South Africa. So he has elevated his sim racing class of driving far beyond a lot of people. So big ups to him.
Can we have a look at P5 and 6?
P5 and 6.
Because that is BMW on BMW action, and this is actually quite interesting because Dupreece is very, very slowly pulling in the Porsche of Berries. I was actually going to say about Dupreece, he is pushing that McLaren to its absolute limit, and I think that there is a slight risk that he might be cooking the rear tyres. Like I said just now, you can't push the McLaren constantly, as it will burn those rear tyres through to the threads. And I think that there's a risk that he's going to fall back into this battle between the two BMWs with essentially a sword in a gunfight.
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting because again, Farao Nas, who's the secondary driver of the BMW in 8, put it on pole, has moved his way all the way backwards, and I'm not 100% sure what has gone on there. It just looked like the BMW was very unsettled in the beginning of the race, whether that be tires or not. But then it will come back and race, and then it will move backwards and move forward. So a bit of inconsistency there from either the car or the driver, or just little mistakes made during the race, but seemingly fighting back.
But there's two key things that make up outright performance in ACC. One is, as you said, the tyre pressures, and two is the aero balance of the car. Obviously, suspension makes it nicer over bumps, which is the reason why we got that wiggle off of the chicane from Schnur. But the majority of it is down to aero balance and tyre pressures. Now, to keep the tyre pressures in the window, your strategy changes depending on the conditions. Where we're at the moment down in Imola, the track's looking at 32 degrees. These guys are going to have their brake ducts wide open, trying to keep the tyres as cool as possible so they can keep pushing. Now, if the air temperature or the track temperature was a little cooler, what we'd be looking at is closing off those brake ducts so that when you stamp on the brakes, that heat actually radiates out into the wheel and can inflate the tyre for you, without you having to try. So it's, as I say, there's a lot that goes into keeping the car in the window. And remember as well, it's that the window on these cars are very small. 27.5 to 27.8 psi is normally about where you want to. Oh, what's that?
That's the Honda of Ellis there.
Yep. Still remaining with a pit stop to do, apparently.
Yeah, it does seem like they still have. So they came back into it, and I think they've lost connection. Again, Wilson with Scooter, who was leading, is now in 14th. They're chasing down the secondary Aston Martin, which is quite far ahead of them. But it's gotten a lot closer between these two based on lap times. So
yeah, I don't think there's going to quite be the time left in the session to actually close down that lap. Who did we just lose? Oh no, it's the no, just lost someone.
We did. Paul, De Santos, Berries, Dupreece, Schnur.
Top 6 are all unaffected. We've got Boolean.
We lost someone.
Yeah, who have we just lost?
The Audi is the Lambo.
No, Young's still there.
Yeah.
Hang on. I just realised I'm watching the YouTube stream.
You are? Oh.
1 second.
We've definitely lost someone. Well, top 6, yes, as you said, still there. Smith still there, and the Audi, the only
Real
Audi,
in the
the only
BMW. So
lose a BM.
Ashley's being excellent and helping.
Kale, yes, it is the Pace Motorsports boy.
Yeah.
They have gone. Yes, there they go. Kale van der Berg in the pit. Ah.
Oh, heartbreak.
Heartbreaking.
And that's, yeah, we got DC from Sabata in chat as well. So, another cat thrown amongst the pigeons and possibly another position for the 333 car.
Yes.
If they can get everything back in play. I dare say that perhaps the Honda the Honda in 15th is a bit out of it, but point surprises, and if they finish this one, then this can play, this can be their dropped score, which means that then they can come back stronger next time out as well.
Everything account for, again, points all around, whether you're at the front or at the back, you will get awarded points. I mean, and it all counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single one of them, because you won't necessarily always have the best race of any given moment. However, I think top 6 has been adventurous, surprising, to a certain extent. Again, I did not expect the PWSR boys to be that low. The Porsche surprised me because I didn't expect it to be that high up where it is at this moment. The Honda was fighting against a lot of BMW boys at some other point, which has managed to maintain that. So a few surprises and a few not.
Yeah. So with the Porsche, as soon as see you in a bit, Andrew. I hope you're feeling better soon, man. I hope those painkillers are working. So with regards to the Porsche, as watching the stream, I was sat here on my with my phone earpiece in, just going, come on. And as soon as they pitted, I knew they were going to be on for a decent result. You put Berries in the car, and especially in a Porsche, and he's going to make it fly. He's one of those people, like Paul is becoming as well, who I refer to as the king of the yeet. Where if you jump on board with him, look at his driving style. He can throw the car into, like with Paul and with Ryan, they can throw the car into the corner with so much confidence that even if they're getting oversteer, even if they're getting four-wheel drifting or anything like that through the corners, they're on top of it. The NSX loves that driving style. The Porsche, not so much. You need to adjust how you're working with the car. With the Porsche, you can't just throw it at a corner and hope it sticks. But if you look, the amount of apex speed that Berries is taking there
through that corner,
yeah, it's just so much higher than any of the other mid-rear cars.
Yes.
Like the BMW, we discount because it's front-engined, and it's basically designed to swallow curbs, much like the Bentley of old or the Mercedes. They all just ride curbs really well.
That's taking it apart. Yeah. So the McLaren, the Lambo, those ones will struggle.
Yeah. You can't just throw them at the curbs like that. But because Berries has so much confidence in the car, he can just pitch it in at the right angle and gets it the same every lap. And Paul does exactly the same with the NSX. You'll see when he turns in, he kind of turns in, straightens his hands, and uses the throttle to keep the car in the position where he wants it to be in. it's that confidence and that feel for the car that I don't quite have yet. You see how he's avoiding the sausage curves?
Yes, he's avoiding the secondary one.
Yeah, because of that, you just can't carry the same speed. Let's have a look at Boolean now. So up on the sausage curve, avoid the second one. See how violent the shake was?
Yes, and that's just on the first one on entry. So if he takes that on the second one, it's just going to unsettle the car far more than anticipate. Now, let's see if we can get to Priya here, also on the McLaren. I think he's not that far off that curve, so it would
not that far off, yeah.
It's interesting to do that analysis between the cars just to see what they do and how they do. But then again, it also show classes the different styling techniques that is used on this track.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the McLaren is my personal favourite. The way that you drive this car is the same way that you would drive a prototype. Big eat of the first sausage, and a little bit braver on the second you saw. So there was like
it looks slower. It's like it's vastly slower. It's like he had to slow down for that corner in order for it to not be unsettled.
Yeah. So with the McLaren, it's most stable when you're on throttle. So the way that you kind of drive the McLaren is you slow down before you get to the corner. You coast into it because
making a big mess there.
Should be okay to make as many mistakes as he needs to retain that 10th position. Hopefully, actually, this could be Young making up a position. I think that the Young is going to take 11th off of Mouton here.
He is coming through the start-finish line. That BMW is still in the birds.
There's the Aston in the background. This is going to be a position gained for the Aston Martin then. Dying moments.
One extra spot. Now where is Wilson though? Wilson is still a bit too far for that battle.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for the 333 car. But that is an extra position. Points make prizes.
Yes, it does. Every little bit counts. This might be not your worst of the race for the season, as long as we can get it down and get it in. Now, it's quite interesting. Now, I mean, we can all look at this stream, and this is to me phenomenal. And I like the fact that we could have multiple drivers driving a season in a championship. But in theory, even though it looks like there's only 15 cars on track, realistically there is 30 drivers that is involved in this championship. And that's quite intensive. Now we have a car, 2 drivers. They have to have the adaptation to have a single setup for them to accommodate the race. And that makes it challenging. A 1 hour, 20-minute race doesn't sound that long, 45 minutes each per driver divided in 2. That's if you go by that strategy. But in essence, the time that needs to take place to get the right setup for both drivers to be in a position to drive, not even get the tire pressures ready for your secondary drive, that's a lot of work to be done. So effort to everyone that has gone into it.
Yeah, and the thing is that you're always going to lean the way. So the way that you set up a car normally when it comes to things like this is that you would pick a driver who is naturally faster, and make the setup around that, around them. That's the way you would think, but that's not the best way to make this sort of thing work. There's an expression in in endurance racing where you're only as fast as your slowest driver.
Yes.
So if you set up the car around getting the best, not making the slower driver comfortable, but getting the absolute best out of the slower driver, and this is something that again the LNR team is absolutely exceptional at as a whole, is getting the best out of the AM class drivers. Then your fast driver will still be fast.
Yes.
They just might not be able to get, and they might not be able to get the absolute peak lap time out, but they'll absolutely be able to drive it, as you say, consistently at a good pace to the end of the race.
let's see, the biggest guys, or the teammate that has increased the most from starting grid to where they are at the moment is this McLaren, currently in 4th. So they started 7 positions down from the starting grid, worked their way through from that point all the way to 4th, which is a phenomenal drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are, as you can see, in the middle of no man's land as well. So it's not a case of they've had to play off luck or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. Ahead of them, there was cars such as the 122, the 333 and the 193 that were, and I think the 11 was ahead as well. Yeah, but they have not made the mistakes. They've driven consistently as they go ever so slightly wide at the top of the hill there, and they've put the work in to put themselves in that position. And now you can see the 11 car that's had issues earlier in the race, hassling, trying to get just one of the at least 4 laps that they've got
back
in arrears.
But it's a lot of work for them. So now they've got a McLaren which seems like it is slower than them, and it's all about clever driving that takes place. Do you go and make that move in the gaining last minutes? I mean, it's 2 minutes left. Do you do that? Do you risk your car damage by just passing a guy ahead of you to gain 1 lap?
Well, this is the thing that I would say normally. So when I've got a car, it comes back to that conversation we were having now about putting pressure on yourself. If I had a BMW like that, if I had a car like that who was clearly faster, obviously if it's a BMW I get out of the way because they're awful and scary. As Gary will attest to last season, or last season of TvT. But when there's a car hunting you down like that, they're 4 laps down. Who cares?
Yes.
Evening, Andy.
Game crash, fatal error by Sean Skitter.
Oh no!
That is very unusual. I mean,
do you know what I had all the way through qualifying on Sunday. I had exactly the same thing. Verified the files. No files changed, but then it worked reliably.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's the worst.
There could be something, and again, I have to compliment this whole application from Awesome Simracing. I don't know who designed it. I have no idea. I just got accustomed to it in the last couple of days, getting back into the sim racing seat and so forth. It is phenomenally good. It's shared by all types of communities, which I could figure out from, whereby you have a methodology of uploading your custom-made liveries, but then be in a position to share that across the border spread curve for the broadcasters and the guys on the racing platform, to minimize the lag and the effort that takes all other communities to get that lovely liveries displayed and showed.
I can add another thing, which I know that that Mr. Venter is going to appreciate, is you don't get people submitting liveries in the wrong format. It's a massively overlooked thing, and I have had so many late nights now receiving liveries, unzipping them, looking in them, they're in the wrong format. Or they've not sent me one of the JSON files, or they've not sent me this, that, and the other. And again, it's one of those things that when you're broadcasting as the NSX, that luminous Pikachu yellow
comes across the line. Is that the final?
That is finished. The final lap.
Final lap.
Unchallenged to the line comes the 777 of Paul Venter,
followed by the BMW from PWSR, the Santos, driving phenomenally. He did gain up a bit, like 8 seconds gap between them start to finish, not bad at all.
And now the Porsche. What an incredible drive from, actually, who's the first driver in the Porsche?
Jacques Vermeulen.
Jacques, what an incredible drive from Jacques! Incredible strategy from the 998. Whoever called that was an
Called it
absolute
well.
stroke of genius.
And then the
early pit
McLaren
stop.
in fourth. So fun again. 4 different cars in the top 4. That is what I call going to be an eventful season for
Yes.
sure.
Absolutely, and there's so much strategy to play out, and that's taking out of the equation that Paul might have his wicked way with weather and temperature conditions through the rest of the season. But my goodness, it's going to be a fantastic season. I'll leave you to conduct some driver interviews. Let's see if anybody wants to come and say hi. I dare say that you might.
Yeah,
but
Smith
as well. One of the ERA drivers comes home in 7th position. Stacey Ellis with a difficult race, but will get the checkered flag when they come round to the finish line at least.
Very, very, very badly damaged Honda. They nursed it all the way through. Again, there is still plenty of racing going on here. This is only round 1. So we got Suzuka next week, followed by Silverstone. Then, of course, Zandvoort, Kota, and going to finish it off with Barcelona. So season 1 at LNR is definitely going to be eventful. I don't think we should shy away. And again, if all goes well, I should be here every week streaming for you, gents.
That would be fantastic, and every opportunity I will be watching as well.
Let's just see if I can get
But
the time.
I will leave you. I was going to say, are you going to do some driver interviews?
Well, if they want to pop in and say hi, they're more than welcome to do so. I'll give it a few minutes while I've got the race finishes up there. So of course, taking it from top to bottom, we have the Honda taking it for a victory. Drivers by Paul Venter, Sean Strydom, followed by the PWSR boys Chris DeSantos and Alan Patterson, and then of course the Porsche 991 with drivers Ryan Barrington-Smith and Jacques Vermeulen taking the final podium. I think it was a good start of the season.
I couldn't agree more. And it wasn't Jacques in the McLaren. It was Niall.
It was now.
Mr. Learning how to drive a McLaren in the heat of a race brought the 720S up to 4th position. What a race for them in the end.
Phenomenal. Again, most gained positions is by car number 4. And again, they're not the only ones that gained that much. There was a few other guys that capitalized on it. Of course, a few unfortunate disconnects based on internet connections and so forth, fatal errors and so on. But I'm hoping that for the next few races it will be quite fun. Doesn't look like anyone wants to pop in and say hi to us. So again, we'll try and do this again next week. I know it's new to everyone. I've never been an individual that interviewed everyone. I know it's a thing of you that you generally do, but it's good to keep and maintain that tradition. So next week, boys, you want to say hi, top 3 boys, definitely pop in and say hi. We want to know your strategy. From everyone else on the stream, those that have watched on chat, again, big thanks to you. Love your support. Next week, same time, same place. From my end, see you all later. Last words from you, Ike?
No, I have no words. You've taken them all. It's been as a way for this season to start. I can't think of any better way for this Team v Team Championship. Thank goodness we have a Mr. Sean Buck to be able to take us through every corner of every lap of the rest of this season. A very good evening to everybody.
Good evening, good night, God bless, goodbye.